Hi, welcome back. Before we begin our first talk show of the day, let me ask you something, Marissa.
Yes.
Have you ever invested in stocks before?
No, I don't know how to play the game.
This is
This is gonna be the first time. I guess that's why I'm here, Indra.
okay.
Because I'm a total layman and I am willing to learn.
This should be fun.
Yes. But I am sure I am not the only one who are, interested in investing our money. But before we invest our money, of course, we have to study the risk. We have to also study our profile, what kind of investor we are, what kind of investment will suit us. And that is why we have our guest today, right?
Yes, because we like to talk about your money instead of my money. So, before making any investment, it is important to know what investment instruments are safe and stable, including when we jumpstart our investment with stocks.
Yes.
So find out more about stock investment and its strategies. Joining us today, our guest financial planner, Metta Anggriani. Good morning, Mbak Metta. Thank you for coming for the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, good morning, Mas Indra and Mbak Marissa. Good to be back.
Thank you so much for being here in the studio because I'm sure we've met previously during the pandemic.
Yes.
But virtually. But because I'm a layman, Metta, so could you please explain what is doing stock investment? What makes it different from other kinds of investment?
Well, yeah, I mean, like nowadays, we can invest our money in different types of instruments. So stocks is just one of the options,
right?
One of the alternatives. So, but again, before we start investing, first we have to understand ourselves. Right?
Correct.
Right? You know what your goals, what your investing goals. I mean, like, is it for short term, mid term, or long term? Because then you can define what instruments that you need it for. Like, for example, if you want to invest in stocks, because of its volatility, so maybe it's better for you to invest it for mid or long term, right?
Right.
Okay, then second, you have to understand your risk profile, because then you know what's your tolerance and your capacity to absorb risk.
Right.
Right. Because again, stocks is again very high risk.
Very high risk.
Very high risk.
Okay.
So it provides higher returns, but with higher risk as well. So then again, after that, if we want to invest, we have to determine what's our style of investing. I mean, like, we want to be actively managing our own investment portfolio, or are we going to just, okay, I have money, I set it up, and then I forget it, and sometimes I go back later and find out, right?
Right.
So it will be a different how do you manage it, right? Okay, then second, of course, after understanding yourself, you have to understand how the stock itself, how the stock market itself, right?
Yes.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, the stock is a very high risk return. And because of that, we have to really understand how the stock market works.
How does it work? Because oftentimes it's like, oh no, it goes up, great. It goes down, oh no.
And it comes very fast.
Yes.
Right.
It's
like,
stressful.
yeah. Okay. Because it's really like, nowadays it's very live. I mean, like, you can monitor live gitu kan. So you know when the price is increased, everybody is
buy.
buying, right?
Yeah, buy.
And then, but of course you are on the queue, right? Yeah. When you want to buy, there are other people's buying as well. But when it gets to your turn, maybe it's getting lower, the price is already getting down. Right. So again, we have to understand how the stock market works. We have to understand the market behavior, the fluctuations, the price fluctuations, as well as, the regulations, because the regulations will be very tight as well. Right. And of course, to understand how the market works, we have to learn the techniques, the analytical techniques, so we can know what stocks to buy and when to buy it.
So my question is, I don't want to do analytics. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to get rich. So for somebody who just want to start, I mean, like, I'm not recommending anybody to just jump in like, oh, I'm gonna get rich tomorrow, but because like you mentioned, what is high risk, but at the same time it's high return. But could you give us for let's say for Marissa, who never started buying stocks, is there any like strategies that you can help us to get started where we don't have to look at the monitor all day and every day, like like those traders that with 3 monitors and like looking up and down
with monitors.
Right. Like, is there like a simple strategies? Like,
well, if you're a beginner in investing stocks, well, first I would suggest that maybe you start with the small money first.
What is small money?
I mean,
Right?
Right.
yeah, I mean, like, because right now, I mean, like, you can buy as low as like one lot of stocks. I mean, like,
How much
for
would that be, one lot
for
of
about
stocks?
100,
100 stocks.
100,
So-
one lot is like 100 stocks. Like,
Right.
for
So it
example,
depending on how much the price of stocks, so it calculated by 100.
Right.
So,
let's say the price of stocks for one stocks is like 5,000 rupees. So
Okay.
one lot is 100 times 5,000, so like
500,000.
500,000.
okay.
It can be as low, and even there are much lower price of the stocks as well. So you can start lower with the small amount as well.
Right.
Right. And then second, if you are a new beginning, I would suggest maybe you better start with, for me, maybe the blue chip stocks. You know, the
Right. What are the blue chip stocks usually? What industry?
well, usually it's you know, the big caps with the stocks that you know, they have the big capitalization in the stock markets. So you know, normally the big names in the industry, you know, like for example, in the industry of retail, there will be like Unilever, or in the industry of telecommunication, there will be like telecom, or industry of banks, you know, there is a Bank Mandiri or whatever.
Stable.
So those the big caps, normally they are more stables.
Yeah.
And of course, they have a lot of, because there are big caps, there are so many investors, there are so many parties that look for them, that look out for them. So they have to be very careful itself in maintaining their operations, their business operations.
Right.
Right, right. So try to doing that for a couple of months, of weeks of months, and then once you get the feeling, maybe you can start to diversify. The diversification is also part of a good strategy of investing your money, because then you can reduce your risk to minimize, you know, if one particular stocks is, you know, suddenly drop and you can severely
Lose money.
yeah, deduct your investment portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing diversifications, you are kind of like, you know, reducing risk, managing risk. Like for example, you have stocks in this industry and different industry, or you have some big caps stocks, and then you know some other value stocks and other stuff.
Right.
So that's
It's like
what we do
putting
with
your
them.
eggs in different baskets.
Right.
Right,
Right.
right. Do you, I mean, what's your advice right now? Because we know that there's actually a lot of apps. What is it called? Like, you know, those fintech. Yeah, fintech.
Fintech.
And of course that attracts the young people, the millennials, the Generation Z, right? But also at the same time, sometimes I'm concerned about they're still in the stage where they're trying to save money. It's even hard for them to buy a house, right? I mean, should they start investing in stocks while they're trying to save money? I mean, how do we invest in stocks wisely, especially when we're also trying to make a life, you know?
Right. Of course, you know, well, when we talk about the financial planning itself, investment is like, you know, it's already like in an advanced state of managing your money, because we have to ensure that we have the cash flow right.
Yes, for day to day.
Right, and we have, you know, our savings for like fundamental goals, you know, like, you know, maybe I have to my emergency fund, my kids education fund, and then you have and other stuff. Maybe you can do some investment. So your investment is like another high level of managing your money. So once you manage all this, you know, basic day-to-day finances, then you can do the investment.
Okay.
But of course, it is understandable that youngsters nowadays, they are exposed to a new technology, right?
Yes.
Nowadays, they're digital generation.
Yeah.
They are, you know,
They're constantly looking at their phone. It's like, oh my God, it's up. Oh, it's down. Oh my God.
right. Yeah. So they're exposed to that, and they are more aggressive as well.
Yes.
Yes, because you know when you are young, you have more opportunities to go along with the investment, right? Actually, in one side, it's a good one, because then, you know, when you start earlier, you have a longer time to, you know, to have the investment compounding, right? Right. But of course, you know, it depends on, you know, when you were young, maybe you were still like emotionally affected, you know. Oh, it's up, it's down, and suddenly before it gets accumulated the returns, you're already scared, and then you withdraw. So that's what it doesn't make it more profitable, because you don't have the patience enough to endure all this
So,
volatility.
so times will help you out. Is that what you're saying? Like
Right.
throughout times, are all stocks created equally? Like, are we gonna make money by like, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years? Are we all guaranteed that we're gonna make that money?
Well, there's no such thing as
guarantee.
100% guarantees in the investing in stocks, right? But of course, I mean, like in general, when we talk about the long term, the return of the stocks in the stocks market are higher than when we are investing in the money market, for example, right? So, but again, because it's high risk and high return, so when you look at the short term, it's very fluctuative, right?
Yes.
Right. So I mean, but again, if you invest in the longer term, the risk will be compensated by the return. So I guess itself the potential growth of investing in stocks is actually coming from your potential compounding itself, you know, the longer time, as well as the risk and return trade-offs itself. So that's why, again, as much as you don't want to do these analytical techniques, well, at least we can learn, we can read all these, you know, market reviews and learn, hear about the news, read the financial newspapers. At least we understand how the ongoing economies go, in our country.
Well, earlier you mentioned about like the big caps, what do you call it, the blue chip
chips.
stocks. And now how are they performing the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years? So we're talking about Bank Mandiri or Bank BRI or what's
Well,
the platform?
well, I think its stocks will be different, yeah. But again, I think during the pandemic itself, when we talk about the stock markets in Indonesia, we are very much growing. Although, I mean, like the numbers of the investor is growing. Although, you know, when during the pandemics, the investment instruments is, you know, people tends to go conservative. Like maybe you heard that gold is more the safe haven during the pandemic. But
Or
nowadays,
even government bonds.
yes. So, but nowadays the stocks is getting, you know,
Exciting
again. The stock market is getting exciting. Oh, but still, we have to be very careful because nowadays the economies are still a lot of uncertainties. The global market are, you know, there are still many unpredicted movement from, you know, in the global market. So we have to be very careful as well.
And we also noticed post-pandemic, I mean, yeah, we still have COVID around us, but we also noticed, Indra and I and Paul, our colleague, noticed that there's more wars going on in the world right now. How much can wars affect the global market?
I think it will be very highly impact the global markets because if the war's happening, you know, it impacted some regions, you know, the market between those regions, you know, the export and imports of goods will be affected. And maybe Indonesia is far away from that, but still, you know, the monetary policy during for all these countries may be affected to us, like not just because of the wars, you know, maybe you heard that what happens in the US, you know, because of their pandemic policy where they increase their interest rate, then some banks are collapsing because they need some cash, the industry needs some cash. So again, those uncertainties will impact as well in our domestic markets. So well, as long as, although we are good enough to have our economic fundamental stable, but still we have to be very careful with the global activity.
Yeah, we have to open our eyes to the global situation to be able to make wise decisions. So, for example, right, I am not very good with numbers, Metta. So I'm sure if or Indra and I are thinking of investing in stocks, we would have someone actually managing it for us, right? Now, for people like us who are not good with numbers, how do we select which person that will be
Managing
good,
our-
to manage our money? What sort of questions should we ask them to make sure that they are the competent ones? Because, you know, we're giving them money. Of course, we want the money to grow, so we would like to have someone that is competent to manage our money.
Right. Well, of course, nowadays there are so many like investasi bodong as well.
Yeah,
All
which
those
is
kind of stuff,
scary.
Yeah. But again, I think if you invest in stock markets, the stock market itself is highly regulated. So we have to when we want to invest in stock, we open an account in the financial securities companies. Mostly they are monitored, registered, and by the government authorities, the financial government authorities, right? And first, that's why we have to look for that. And the second one is, if you are not confident enough to invest in stocks directly, like you said, maybe you don't have enough time to do that. You are not good with numbers. You don't understand how doing these analytical technique things.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe there are some alternatives that you don't buy stocks directly to the stock market, but you buy it in the mutual funds. So mutual funds is actually you buy a certain portfolio by the investment managers.
I see.
So, and they manage the portfolio. But so the investment managers is actually collecting the money from the crowds, and we buy like the units, the portion of units, and they will manage what's the portfolio for that. So of course they will make sure that when one stock goes up and stock goes down, they try to manage as stable as possible.
Yeah.
But again, there's still risk. There's the market risk. If the economy suddenly turn down, then the market risk will always still be there as well.
So the question is, so like, for somebody who want to start it, we want to start, like, we want to buy when it's the lowest numbers for the stock price, because we want to go up. Like, if we go back, I said I don't want to see analytics, but like if we go back to 2020, like that was like a good time to buy, but like we didn't even realize it. Like, oh, it's red, everything was bad, and then like all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually it get better. It's like 2-3 years later, now all the stocks that was on red back in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, when is the next time? Like, we already missed that 2020.
Yes.
When will be the
we were
next
so
time?
worried about the pandemic, and we
Right.
were holding on to
more
our money.
You're right. So when is the best time, like, for us, like, who want to start investing? Like, when is the jump in point? Like, when is gonna be the lowest time?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we have the economic recession, for example, actually for some investors, they will think that there is an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Instead of the, normal people, we think that's the risk of investing in the stock market because everything goes down, but they will see it as an opportunity because when the price goes down, that's the time for you to buy. But of course, when we talk about our personal money, we have to ensure this part of money is for that needs, the security of our finances, right? So I guess when you ask when is the time to start, I guess the time to start is when you start earning some money.
Right.
Oh,
When you start, like, and that's why like when we talk to young people right now, when you start earning your money, when you have your first salary, maybe you have to start, set aside some money for investment. And if you start investing in stocks, then you can also do it, with the dollar cost averaging. So at least when you start with the small amounts, but consistently over time. So you're doing the dollar cost averaging. So you're actually minimizing the risk of, the price volatility itself. So in the long term, when you focus on the long term, then you will see that the price will grow as well. So I think that's one of the strategy. If you are not sure when is the right time to buy, when is the right time to start, well, better you start now than. And there will be never late. I mean, like, better late than never, I think.
Yeah, so I guess there are at least 2 principles that we have to hold on to, especially for the youngsters who are interested in investing in stocks. First, you need to know how to manage your money well. I mean, you cannot, for example, you have your salary, like 5-10 million rupiah, right? And then you just invest everything in stocks. That's also not very wise because you have your needs. So maybe you can set aside like 1 million or 2 million, in investment. And also to be patient, right? Because if you're not patient, you will keep losing money every time you panic. So yes, there you go. Is there anything else that we need to remember?
Well, yeah, I guess that's it. But again, it is important to to really understand the risk profile of yourself. Because some people, we want to have a high return, right? We have
quick.
We have a very high risk appetite.
Yes.
But we don't look at our capacity of risk.
Yes.
Like, for example, if actually my salary is still very low, or I mean, like, maybe I don't have a low salary, but I have a lot of financial burden with the family.
Yes.
I still have to manage all other expenses from our housing expenses. So
Yes.
that's why maybe your capacity is not very high, although your appetite is high.
Yes.
But on the other hand, some people like that. I mean, like, I don't want to lose my money, so I don't want to invest in stock. Well, actually, you have a lot of money and you're still young, you're single, you have irregular income. So why not trying, be a bit more, playful in your investment as well?
I am tempted. What do you
Are you
think?
ready?
Well, a little bit. I would invest a little bit.
I
and
know,
see
I
how
know a
it
lot
goes.
of apps nowadays make it so easy.
Really?
It's like shopping at Tokopedia.
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't even know. Does Tokopedia allow?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because I mean, when we are going to invest in stock, when we buy stocks directly in the stocks market,
Yeah.
we actually have to open account in the the financial securities
okay.
company.
Yeah.
They will have the apps to
To
to buy.
Okay.
But if you want to buy not in stocks but in mutual funds, well, nowadays there are many apps that selling these mutual funds.
I'm interested. Thank you so much, Metta Anggriani,
You're
for your
welcome.
expertise. It's so lovely. I am actually tempted now. Just set aside a little bit of my money, just wait for 20 years, see where it goes, right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Anyway, we'll bring you more updates around the world because we are going for a break right now, but we'll be right back.